My name is Albert Wilkins. Today we will be discussing police brutality, and we will try to figure out a way or a solution to police brutality. Before we start, I want to say something. Police brutality is only a symptom of a larger cultural issue of racism in our society as a whole. But we will look at the aspect of police brutality today and try to come up with a solution for this police brutality. Have you ever wondered why police brutality goes unpunished? Or why the police are more likely to commit brutality against minorities or people of color? Police brutality against minorities comes from a culturally biased attitude and the fact that police are seldomly held accountable for their actions. Neil Franklin, an African-American officer who served in the Baltimore Police Department and the Maryland State Police, admitted his own previous prejudices during his service in an interview with Vox. He said, "When I see a young black male in a particular neighborhood, or his pants sagging, or he walked a certain way, my first thoughts were, oh, I wonder if he's selling drugs." First, we will discuss how a police officer's cultural biases towards minorities or people of color can cause them to commit police brutality. Second, I will discuss how the lack of accountability when it comes to police officers makes them more likely to commit brutality. We then will discuss how holding police officers more accountable will help reduce brutality, as well as examining data to pinpoint problem areas that can help. So how does a police officer's cultural biases towards minorities encourage them to commit brutality, you might ask? Police officers have a clear cultural bias towards minorities and people of color. This is according to Hudson, an ex-police officer. In 2014, cops routinely called anyone of color a thug, whether they were the victim or just a bystander. According to Wheatley and Kill, in March of 2015, the Department of Justice also issued a report detailing a pattern of clear racial disparities and discriminatory intent on the part of the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department. Police brutality and violence against minorities or people of color is closely related to a clear cultural bias, attitude, and racially motivated outlooks that all people that are a certain color are criminals. Not only do Not only do police officers have a clear racially motivated bias towards people of color, but they are rarely held accountable for their poor actions. Police aren't held accountable for their actions. It is a well-known fact that police are not held to the same standards as citizens. According to Hudson, a former police officer, in 2014, the problem is the cops are not held accountable for their own actions, and they know it. These officers violate rights with impunity. They know there is a different criminal justice system for civilians and police. According to another article written by Wheatley and Kill, in a number of closely watched cases involving deaths of young black men, police officers have been acquitted, generating uproar and concerns about equal justice for all. So what can be done to solve this problem? The solution is to hold the police accountable and to analyze data to pinpoint areas where there is a clear racial bias and where there is a clear pattern of police brutality. In order to fix the issue, we need to hold the police to a higher standard and show them that they are just as responsible for their actions as are civilians. In order to hold them accountable, they should be arrested, tried, and found guilty, especially in instances where it is clear excessive force or brutality was committed in any way. Analyzing data about police departments that show the most signs of police brutality or are actually racially biased against people of color could help by pinpointing which cities and departments are in need of the most help to become better public servants. Improving the quality of data will also help pinpoint problem areas so the officers on those forces could get additional training or receive discipline for a clear pattern of poor performance. Today, we have examined why a culturally biased attitude towards people of color can be a cause of police brutality. I have shown that a lack of consequences is a clear example of why police brutality is able to continue. Now, we see how data can be used to pinpoint problem areas so police brutality can be decreased. And we have examined why it is important for police officers to be held accountable for their actions. Police brutality comes from a clear racist attitude among police officers, and the fact that they are rarely held accountable, even when it has been shown without doubt that they have used excessive force. If we want to keep our families and our communities safe, we must hold police accountable for their poor decisions and actions, and correct these racially biased attitudes that are held against minorities and people of color. Thank you. My name is Albert Wilkins, and thank you for listening.